Welcome to our info session for our Summer Undergraduate Research Program. Quick show of hands, has anyone done SURP before? All right. So Arisa and Harry are joining us today because they did SURP last summer. They will chat with us towards the end of the session, give us a sense of what it's like to do SURP. What is a SURP? What's it like to actually be in it and doing it? Okay, what is SURP? It is paid. It is a paid research internship program for students who are studying STEM, a STEM pursuit that is relevant to NASA Mission Directorate. You work over the summer, you are under the guidance of a faculty member or a postdoctoral researcher or a research scientist. So someone who's actively doing research on a regular week-to-week basis. And the intention here is to get more students into research. You do not have to have research experience. You don't have to be an expert in what you're doing. The whole idea is that the program is to start giving you some hands-on experience doing research and working in a lab. The requirements are that you do have to be a US citizen. It's a NASA rule. And you do have to be enrolled at one of our consortium institutions. So that's either here at the UW, any of the campuses. And we also have, because we are a consortium across the state, any affiliate institutions. So any of you who are joining us online who are from one of our affiliates, like Seattle Central College, North Seattle College, colleges across the state like Wazoo and Peninsula College, we have a list on our website. Anyone who's enrolled at a consortium affiliate can also join us too. Okay, so there are 3 SURP applications. For most of you who are probably joining us today, you are undergraduates, so we'll focus on covering that. But for the purposes of those of you who might be joining us later via YouTube, you also apply with your faculty mentor. Your faculty mentor also applies to be a SURP participant for the summer. And this year, we're also having graduate leaders, and there will be a separate application for graduate leaders. But for undergraduates, you have the choice of applying either full-time or part-time. So if a full-time research schedule doesn't fit in, you have other classes that you're taking over the summer, you can do part-time SURP as well. The program follows the UW summer quarter, so it starts on June 20th, Tuesday after Juneteenth. It goes all the way until August 18th. Full-time placements are up to 70 hours a week. You'll get paid a $7,300 stipend. Part-time participants are up to 20 hours a week, and you'll get paid a $3,650 stipend. The program structure. There is a weekly workshop with Space Grant staff. This is generally going to be Eli, our student advisor. And the workshop covers how to write your abstract, because there's always an abstract for your research project. It's a time for you to practice your presentation skills, because there's opportunities for you to give presentations on your research. And there's also a lot of guidance on how to put together your poster. If you've seen academic posters before, they're often hanging in hallways in your buildings. There's a lot of guidance on how to put together a standard research poster. There's this year, because we are looking at having almost twice the usual size of our summer undergraduate cohort, we are also going to have graduate leaders. So everyone will be placed in like cohorts that's led by a graduate leader. And what the graduate leader will do is they'll be available to answer questions for you. And they will also hold a once-a-week session where you have a chance to practice your presentation skills. And then at the end of the summer, we do have a summer poster session where everybody displays their research poster. There's also slots to give a presentation if you want to go more in depth on what your research was over the summer. And I think Harry gave a presentation last year. Did you give a presentation?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Did you also?
I did.
Yeah. So you have about 15, 20 minutes where you can actually present on your poster and talk about your research and take questions from folks. It's a really great experience if you are interested. It's just a great experience to always have a chance to practice presentation skills. But it's a really great experience if you're interested in going into a graduate program to have something like this under your belt where you've already had a chance to do a research poster, you've had a chance to give presentations. It's really going to serve you super well if you move on to graduate work. Okay, so undergraduate students have just one application, and the faculty mentors have their own application. And there are two ways to apply using our application process. Some students come to SURP already knowing who they want to work with, what research lab they want to be in, what faculty they want to be with. If you're in that situation, if you find a faculty who's doing work that you're really interested in doing, then you apply, not necessarily together. Let's say you have to have a synchronized application. So you'll apply and your faculty mentor will also apply. And your faculty mentor will identify what students they are interested in working with. So you should work with your faculty mentor to make sure that you are both applying. If you apply and say, I want to work with Christy Morganson, and Christy kind of forgets to do the application, you should check in with her and make sure that she's done it. So which process did you two go through?
I did where I actually just applied, but I was already working in a research lab. And then they had asked me if I would be willing to continue working in that lab, because I didn't know if you could actually continue working. I didn't know that part, that you could continue working in your lab or you got a new lab. So then I think they reached out to him and asked him, and I stayed in that lab.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And Harry, did you know who you wanted to work with ahead of time?
Yes, actually. Well, so I was in Christy Morganson's lab, and the day of the deadline, the day of the deadline for the application, the PhD student supervising me was like, "Hey, you should fill this out." I was like, "It's due today." He's like, "Yeah, you can make it." So I did. That was the situation.
Okay. One of the things that Space Grant tries to do too is we'll be flexible about our deadlines. The deadline for the application for SURP this year is March 31st. If you're getting really close and you still want to apply and you're not quite sure you're going to make it by the end of the day, because that's a Friday, drop us a note and we'll be flexible and we'll work with you to get an application in, because we want people to do SURP. We want you to have this opportunity. We are running a really tight schedule this year where we will have everyone matched up by the end of April, so we can't hold it open too late, but we'll try to hold it open a couple of days if we need to, if we know that there's interest. And so the second way to apply, if you don't know who you want to work with, which is the avenue that Arisa took with her application, you can just apply and say, I'm interested in SURP. I don't have a faculty mentor already lined up. And then you identify what your research interests are, what your current skills are, and the Space Grant faculty will do matching with the faculty labs that we have identified. What are the allowable project areas? Anything NASA related, but NASA is not just space. NASA is a lot of things. So this is a list of a lot of of many of the areas where we have matched students in research labs before. One really important thing is STEM does not actually include medicine. The M is math, of course. And so NASA doesn't fund us doing purely medical research. We don't want to put people off thinking, oh, well, maybe my research is not going to qualify for SURP if it's medicine related. Contact us and ask. Our email address is nasa@uw. Drop us questions anytime about anything to do with SURP. So if you are interested in some sort of medical research, you're not sure if it's going to work for SURP or not, drop us a note, because we've definitely had students who have done, for example, bioengineering, which is kind of on the line of, some of it's medical research, some of it might not be medical research. So drop us a line and see whether or not it fits into one of the NASA Science Mission Directorates. But you can see that it runs the gamut from math and applied math to astronomy, which you would expect. But everything in engineering is also eligible for a SURP project.
The vaccine gun project last year was a really cool example of medicine, because there was a project, an Aero-Astra project, that was developing a vaccine gun, and they pretty much spun the application to say this is also a fluid mechanics project, and to make it relevant to NASA. So it's pretty easy, if you know your project, to be flexible in how you describe it and what spin you put on it and what you say you're focusing on. So there's always a way to make something happen in most cases.
because medicine isn't just medicine. I mean,
Yeah.
it pulls in everything else. It pulls in biology, it pulls in chemistry, it pulls in engineering. So that is a really excellent example of how we try to make it work. So I wish, I'm not actually the person who put together the slideshow, so I wish I could say what everybody is doing here, but we have a couple of photos that give a really good representation of how broad SURP can be. And it also shows an important thing with how SURP works is it's not just in person. We have three options. You can be in person, you can be completely remote if you want to. We have projects that are adaptable to not coming to campus. And then we have some projects that are also hybrid so that you can work sometimes in the lab, sometimes at home if you need to.
Both of those labs are downstairs that were in the previous
Oh, yeah,
slide.
the previous one.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are both engineering related. And of course, students doing remote work as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, how to prepare your application. And I want to say again, at the very top, drop us questions at nasa@uw.edu. And also Eli, our student advisor, is available to also help you with things like preparing your resume. So this is not a apply and then close your eyes and hold your breath and hope that you get accepted. We want you to be accepted into a research project. So we're here to help you through the process. So first thing to think about, as I said, we have remote, hybrid, and in-person. Which modality works for you? Take some time to work on your resume. You have a month. It's open all through March. Start thinking about your resume now. And if you need guidance on your resume, please drop us a note at NASA and ask to have an appointment with Eli, because that is one of his areas of specialty, is career development and specifically working on resumes. There is a research statement that we ask you to draft. It's only 200 to 500. Well, I say only. I'm the communications manager for Space Grant, so when I see 500 words, I'm like, that's nothing. But it can be as short as 200 words. It should cover what type of projects you're interested in. And if you have broad research interests, that's great, but give us a couple of details of specific things that you're interested in, because it really helps us to match things. So for example, if you're a mechanical engineering major, don't just say, well, I'll do anything in mechanical, because that's really, really broad. It makes it very difficult to match. So if you're interested in anything in mechanical, but maybe you're specifically interested in robotics, or you're specifically interested in 3D printing, and you can give us several things, but anything that can help us match you up will make the process a little bit smoother. And as I said, reach out to us for help. We have staff. Eli is our student advisor. Drop us a note to nasa@uw.edu, and he'll be glad to meet with you and talk about your application. The people who review the applications are not the people who help you put your application together. So Eli is not one of our reviewers. He's not one of the folks who matches things up. So please make use of Eli's time. Okay. And so we have Arisa and Harry here with us. They did SURP last summer, and they're going to talk a little bit about what is a SURP? What is it like to work in a research lab? What is everything like? So let's start with Arisa, if you don't mind.
Hi guys, I'm a senior in material science engineering. And over the summer, I worked on a project of trying to recycle expired carbon fiber prepreg material. I kind of got started that actually my junior year, where I started working on in a research lab within the material science engineering department. And through that, I knew I wanted to work on composites. So when I applied the NASA Space Grant, like I said, I wasn't really sure if you could continue working in the lab you were working with now, or if you were going to get assigned to one. But I kind of just stated that my interest was in composites, and they had asked me, okay, would you want to stay in your lab? And I was not sure, because if I wouldn't have worked on it, our project would have just been stalled all summer, because there wouldn't have been anyone here working on the project. So being able to do that, I was able to kind of keep working on the project and push it along. So I did a full time, so I was here for usually 40 hours a week, and I was just running, so each week I met with, not only did we meet in here with like the NASA Space Grant, but I set up meetings with my faculty mentor, and we just kind of talked about the project each week and having the deliverables about what I wanted to accomplish that week, things that issues that came up and how to solve them. But I think, being able to come in here and like do little lessons with like the NASA Space Grant, where they talked about like writing your abstract, doing your poster, and preparing for presentations, because everyone did, usually weekly we gave presentations, so you got to see everyone's project, which is really interesting since they are apart such a broad area, where you had people in like the fisheries department doing stuff. We also had like just across all engineering, so it was really interesting to see what that was like. And it honestly, the summer goes really fast. So when you realize that when you're doing the project, you do have to put in those hours if you want to see deliverables at the end of it. But giving the poster presentation at the end, and being able to, do a big presentation, not just for the other Space Grant students, but being able to present in front of, maybe other faculty, people that you invited to come see your presentation, or even just parents and stuff. It's a cool experience to kind of share all the work that you've worked on all summer, and feels like you get something out of it rather than just staying in a lab all summer, but being able to show that, you got to gain valuable experience.
Did you have family come to your presentation?
They watched on Zoom. My family,
Okay.
I'm like from Eastern Washington, so they watched on Zoom. But yeah, I actually invited some of the faculty mentors that I had worked with before in other research projects, and they came and listened to me give my presentation.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I think half of Harry's family flew in from the East
Oh,
Coast.
no. But both of my grandmas were already just visiting.
Oh,
so
okay.
I don't have
Okay.
any line of, no. My parents, everyone, we're all from the East Coast, but we currently live in Washington. So,
okay.
yeah.
I'm sorry, you had a question. I didn't mean
in your case, they asked if you want to continue working on a project you were already working on, but when did you actually find out what you were going to be working on for the summer?
I applied like towards one of the last days that the application was due, and I think I found out either it was during, I believe it was during April or May. So it was pretty quick, because I think they were just trying to figure out where they were trying to get people in the labs, and I guess with my interest and what I was already doing, it kind of made sense to stay in that lab. So I think they try to get you like set up with the lab pretty quickly. So
yeah, we are going to be doing matching during the month of April, with the goal of having everybody matched up and ready to get into the campus system for your payments by the beginning of May. Because you do get paid, it's not a regular paycheck. I think you get paid twice over the summer.
Yeah.
So you get 2 payments over the course of the summer to pay out your stipend. And this year, not to go into nitty gritty detail, but campus is having a massive financial transformation, which means that we have to get everybody into the system this year in May. So we're going to be really, really prompt with getting everybody matched up this year and getting you into the system. So application closes end of March, beginning of April, and we will have everybody matched up and ready to go by the end of April. So you're not on pins and needles wondering what research lab am I going to be in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a really quick turnaround for me too. I knew by mid-April last year. So,
cool.
Yeah.
You said you worked on recycling composites.
Yes, yeah. I actually still work on that project, so it was just continued on. But it was useful to be able to work in the summer and just get things done instead of having to wait a whole summer and then work on the project again. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'll share our website and how you can find the application when we're getting ready to wrap up. But one of the things that you can also find on our website are everybody's posters. So you can see Arisa's posters, you can see Harry's posters, and you can get a really good sense of what the breadth of the program is like. So you can see what everybody worked on. So I'll share that towards the end. Harry, what was your project?
So, hi, I'm Harry. I'm a senior in aeronautics and astronautics, and I was in 2 research labs over the summer through SURP. So I was already involved in both labs when I came in. They're both downstairs. One is a control systems laboratory, and the other is a plasma science laboratory. It was really great to have meetings with the whole space grant with everyone else in the cohort, because I was down in the basement full of grad students, and I was like the only 21-year-old in a room full of like 25 to 28-year-olds, and I felt like, oh, I'm so much like of a lower level than all the people around me. And it was enjoyable to group together with all the other SURPers and present what we're doing and share how we're learning as we go along. And it was really great to have meetings with Mary, and now it's going to be Eli. Those are really beneficial to learn how to present your research, because the goal of a research poster and the goal of a presentation is to communicate your research to people outside of your little niche. So when you're in your lab, you have jargon, you have just things that everyone accepts as something that you all know, right? You try to communicate your research to the public. Not everyone knows all the background info. So these meetings were really helpful to take a step back and say, okay, how do I explain this to like a high schooler, that kind of thing. And so the main benefit that I got from SURP was through those meetings because I'm trying to think of how to word this. When if you want to pursue a career in research, if you want to pursue a graduate degree, this experience will be very, very helpful in finding funding, because when you're applying for research funding for your graduate studies, for a postdoc program, for fellowship, stuff like that, you're applying to a central application like the National Science Foundation, like you're applying to a NASA fellowship, you're applying to something for money, and the people reading your application don't know your little niche. They're scientists, but they're not scientists in your niche, so that it helps to be able to communicate to a broad scope of audience. As far as the research goes, outside of this meeting room, my experience was pretty much just, I was split 20 hours a week in one lab, 20 hours a week in another lab. I didn't have a lot of faculty handholding because I was already involved in both labs. I was mostly, in my typical routine working on stuff with grad students. But after SURP, in the control systems lab, SURP led to me keeping a paid position in the control systems lab. So I'm still in there and I'm still working, and I'm making like an hourly wage for that. And it's great experience. And I'm still in the plasma science lab, and I have been working with the Space Grant to apply for grad school to stay in this lab. So Eli was very, very helpful in my grad school applications to stay in the plasma science lab. So I'm unsure. Is there anything else I should talk about? I don't know.
Actually, that raises an interesting question. So what are you hoping to do after graduation?
I actually plan on doing the Applied Material Science Engineering Master's. So here,
Okay.
It's a year program.
I just got an email about that. That looks really cool.
Yeah, I hope to continue at least working in the lab I work in, because Professor Zobiri is like the composites lab, so that's kind of what I want to go to. But I do want to transition into like aerospace, so kind of why I focus on like the composite side of things. But yeah, I hope to do at least my master's and then go into industry from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. So let's open it up to questions, and also anyone on Zoom, if you have questions, please go ahead and put them into the chat, and I'll keep an eye on that, and we'll try to get everything answered. So we have plenty of time, but if we answer everyone's questions, then, also perfectly amenable to wrapping early so everybody gets a few minutes back. So any questions about how the application works, how,
About like how competitive is it? Or like how many applications and how many were like in last year's cohort?
Last year's cohort, I think we had, was between 40 and 50 students. It's a really interesting question about competitiveness, because everybody is going into different labs. So we generally try to make sure that there's a place for everyone. Since I'm not involved in that aspect of it. It's hard to say exactly how many students aren't matched. There are always a handful of students who don't get matched. And whether that's because what I'm not able to speak on, just because I'm not involved in the process, is I'm not sure whether or not that's because the student's application wasn't competitive enough, or because we simply didn't have a lab for them. They might have been interested in something where we actually didn't have a faculty who could work with them. We try our best to get faculty for everybody. So if we see applications that aren't already matched up with a faculty member, we will try to actually proactively ourselves go out and try to find faculty who can work with that student. We'll try to find something for everybody, because the goal of this isn't to necessarily be competitive, it's to get you that hands-on experience. Sure.
Did you mention there was a resource on resumes, reviewing resumes, rewriting resumes?
Eli Heller. He's a Space Grant employee. He is excellent. I met with him like 3 times when I was writing my PhD application, and he had a lot of really great advice.
And that's just email?
Yeah, just email him, set up an appointment. Yeah.
Great.
And he can fit you in pretty quickly. There's not like a long lead time. I emailed him and I had an appointment with him the same week. So.
Okay, let's see. There's a question on Zoom. Is there any flexibility for the schedule? So if someone had to leave for example, ROTC training for 2 weeks in the summer, would it still be possible to make it work? Or should they plan for applying another summer? That's a really great question. Did either of you have to take time off during your?
So I didn't have to take time off, but I thought that I might, and I asked. And I was told by Mary, as well as my faculty advisors, they can be flexible. If you need to make some other time frame work, they can make it work, because like summer quarter is this fixed 8 weeks, right?
10 weeks.
10 weeks.
I think it's 10 weeks, yeah.
10 weeks, okay, yeah. Summer quarter is a set 10 weeks, but it doesn't start until a week and a half after, like 2 weeks after the end of spring quarter, and then it ends like almost a full month before fall quarter. So you can take a couple weeks off and then push it back, as long as your faculty advisor is available to be on campus during that time, which they usually are.
And something else to remember too is if you're doing the full-time, it's up to 40 weeks. It doesn't necessarily have to be a strict 40-week schedule every week. So you could check in with your faculty and see if they are amenable to maybe 1 week you work a little bit more, so that maybe the next week you can take time off. Because you might want to take it's summer. Who doesn't want to take a vacation with family? Look like you were nodding. Did you have?
Yeah,
did you take some time
I took
away?
off, like, sometimes I would like work up until like Wednesday and then like take the rest of the week off. But I also did stay later on campus. I stayed, I think, until like the 2nd week of September, working, because my professor, he asked me if I would give a presentation for like another event that was happening. So I think as long as you communicate with your faculty mentor and just to let them know ahead of time what's going on. Usually people, I mean, everyone has things that happen that come up, like people are understanding, and yeah, you just need to like make up your work, or at least, like she said, you get a lot done in a week and you might not have a lot to do next week. Or there's sometimes when I was like waiting for things to come in, so wasn't really much I could do. So it's kind of, you just have to, research has its ups and downs. So you have times where you're working really good, and then other times when everything goes bad and you have to wait for a week to order new things. So it's kind of
Yeah. Equipment likes to break in
Yes.
plasma lab. Yeah.
So,
And I would think for Grace's question specifically, ROTC training is almost undoubtedly going to be a really fixed thing where you know exactly when it happens. So approach your faculty right up front. It's the same as if you go into a new job. When you know that you have a vacation later on that year, you know, when you start your new job, you say, you know, this is when I'm going to have to be out for my vacation time. So work with your faculty ahead of time and let them know that this is something that's coming, and there should be flexibility to do that. So you had a.
yeah, what is the actual time frame for this? Because it sounds like it's kind of intended to, like, it's that 10 weeks of like summer quarter, but it can go anywhere in like that 4-month span of summer.
So the pre-programmed time frame is summer quarter. if you need to be gone for a certain amount of time during summer quarter, it's a case-by-case basis, work with your faculty advisor and see what they can do.
Mm-hmm.
And they're typically flexible, at least in my experience. I mean, I have 2 data points, so I might not be that significant there, but.
Yeah, the expectations of the program are that you start at the beginning of summer. There will be an orientation that you're expected to attend to at the very beginning of the program. And then at the end of summer, usually the last day of summer quarter is when we have our poster session. And we do expect that students will be there to either give a presentation, their oral presentation, or to display their poster. And within that, you know, again, there are the weekly meetings with your graduate leader and with Eli for the weekly Space Grant session. You're going to get the most out of this program as often as you can go to those weekly sessions. But as far as the research is concerned, research is not constrained by the academic calendar. So if there's more to be done in your research and you work it out with your faculty, like both Arisa and Harry, then that's a possibility as well. But as far as the SURP program is concerned, the expectations are that you start at the beginning of summer quarter and you are at least wrapped up so that you can give your poster presentation and report on your research at the end of summer. And outside of that, then it's working with your lab.
Mm-hmm.
And poster completion, being ready to present a poster doesn't necessarily mean you've completed an entire project. Like at the end of, I had 2 posters, one for each lab. One was great. I had accomplished all the goals of my project. The other poster, I was like, okay, here's everything I did get done. Here is a really messed up graph because I'm still fixing a Python script to analyze everything I've done. Here are future steps that I will be taking.
And that is the very nature of research. I was an English major, and even as an English major, I any number of times would turn in a paper that was like, here's as far as I got, and here's what the stumbling blocks were. You know, one time I was waiting for some material to arrive that I had requested from another library, and it didn't arrive in time. So there's always a stumbling block, but the flip side of that is there's always something to present on. You know, here's what we did, here's what we studied. And sometimes the stumbling blocks are interesting. You never know where a stumbling block will lead you to. So there is always something to present on, no matter how messed up your graph is.
I think too, one of the big things is, like you said about like the faculty member hand holding, there might be, like you might get into a lab where, you know, it's very set things that they want you to do. It's not really explorative. So they'll actually, you know, like help you along each, you know, each deliverable. And then, or you work with a grad student in your lab that's, you know, there to work with you and specifically you to like help you out and stuff, especially like if it's your first time doing research, you know, it can be scary to try to do things on your own and have that type of, I guess, mindset going into research. But I would say like mine, I was by myself in there. So I was just doing each things I had to get done each week, and then I would meet with them and tell them what I did, and then they'd ask me, okay, maybe think about this. So they push you along, but whether you have hand holding, that will be like specific for that lab or project.
One of the things that we're trying to do this summer as well, since we have huge capacity for SURP this summer. We have last year we had about 40 to 50 students, as I mentioned, and this year we have capacity to take, I think, up to 70 undergraduate students, which is a huge group. 40 to 50 was even a huge group. So I don't know if you felt like you had much of a cohort last year. That's what we're trying to do this year by having graduate leaders and breaking students down into smaller groups so that you do have undergraduates who are also doing the program with you. You know, Harry had mentioned, I was the only undergraduate in a lab full of graduates. And, you know, if you were largely by yourself too, we're really trying to give students a better experience where they can have more collegiality with undergraduates who are doing the same kind of a program.
We're going to need a bigger conference room.
We are absolutely going to need a bigger conference room. We are. That is a problem that we are currently working on.
All right.
Okay. So a couple of questions from our friends online. So someone had asked when are the presentations? So as we discussed, it's going to be the last week of the program. I think that we are working on getting things scheduled for the very last day. So I think that is August 18th. Do we have recordings of past SURP presentations? I actually don't think we do. We do have all of the posters, almost all of the posters preserved online. Every now and then we do have a student whose faculty is working on something that's proprietary, which is very interesting. So they might be able to display their poster in our poster session. They might be able to do their presentation, but we can't record it. We can't save their poster and share it, which is, I think, just really fascinating that we're working on some research here that is a little bit sensitive. Is there an evaluation or some type of score that you receive for your performance or your presentation, or is it just feedback? It's all just feedback. This is not a graded program. So speaking of past posters from Space Grant, from the SURP program, let me screen share again, because you'll also want to know, how do you apply? How do you find the application on our website? The application will be live later today. So how you find it is when you go to our website, if you scroll down, I'm going to put it front and center under the what's called the opportunity board. Right now it says Astronaut Scholarship Foundation application is open. So later today, if you go to the main page of our website, which is waspacegrant.org, you'll find the link to apply for SURP under the opportunity board. And I'll just use the Astronaut Scholarship Foundation opportunity listing as an example. This is what it will look like when you open that up. It will give you some basic information about the opportunity itself. And I will include on here links to how do you find the past posters, if you'd like to take a look at the posters from last summer so you can see what all of the students did in last year's program. And then there will be the link to how to get to the application itself, the deadline, and so forth. So that will be available on the front page, via the front page of the website later on today. Okay, I don't see any other questions online. Go ahead.
Oh, I was wondering how much previous knowledge you need to have, because I guess you guys were both juniors when you did it, but if you only have the freshman year of engineering classes, is that still enough to do it?
That should absolutely be enough to get you started with SURP. We have even had students who have done SURP in the past when they were just coming into the university. So just graduated from high school and coming into the university. And we've had students, that's a little bit more unusual because you have even less experience being on campus. But that said, if you're a freshman and you're interested in doing SURP this coming summer, absolutely apply. If you need some guidance on how to frame your application so that you can get matched successfully, then drop a note to NASA at UW and schedule an appointment with Eli, and he'd be glad to walk you through getting your application formatted.
Awesome, thank you.
That is a great question. Thank you for asking that.
There is another plasma science lab downstairs other than the one I'm in that there was a student, a SURPer, who had just finished his freshman year in there. And it's high level stuff in there, and they figured out a way to okay, here's what you can work on. They'll work with your abilities. So, yeah. The goal is to learn. The goal is not to already be there before you walk in the door.
I guess I was also wondering about the daily schedule. Is there a set time that you arrive and then leave, or especially if it's part-time, do you just kind of come in whenever and do the 4 hours?
It's entirely up to you and your faculty advisor. Yeah.
Yeah. Since I was by myself, some days I would get here later than others, but it's just, whether you get your stuff done, you just got to be on top of your stuff, self-delegating and making sure you just get things done.
I would even if I wanted a 3-day weekend, I'd work 10 hours Monday through Thursday and then go home on Friday. So.
Okay. any other questions from our friends on Zoom? Is there anything either of you can think that you might want to add?
Other than if you do it, try to get the most out of it for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a great experience to have. And you're at the poster session. It's there are people in industry that come to those poster sessions and come and read your posters and stuff. It's not like you're just presenting for your parents or your faculty member or anything. Like I had a guy came up and looked at my plasmas poster and he was like, "Good job on this. What's your name?" I introduced myself and he walked away, and then I realized he was the CEO of Eagle Harbor. So they make pulse power systems for a lot of plasma experiments. So there are like local industry people here, people that you could connect with. It's a networking event, and if you can show like, hey, I have the ability to carry out a scientific project, and it's beneficial to have those people see that because they could be your employer one day.
Fantastic. If you have any other questions, then thank you. Good catch. Grace, go ahead. That is, do you present your poster alone or with a group? I think this past summer, we did have a few that were group projects. Yeah. Generally, from my experience being more of an outside observer, it has generally been a lot of students who have worked individually, but there have definitely been students who have been grouped in labs together and they have presented. So have you done group?
In my controls lab, it wasn't a group, I was with one other person and we presented together.
Okay. So your project team might just be you and one faculty member. It sounds like, Arisa, that was your experience.
Yeah, I just presented on my own. I did my poster and the presentation by myself since I was the one who did most of the stuff.
Yeah, I think that is one of the reasons why it's so important that that you do come to the weekly Space Grant sessions that Eli's going to be holding. Make sure that you connect with your graduate leader and the other undergraduates in your group, in your cohort group this summer, because it does so often turn out that you are the only undergraduate, you're the only SURP student who is in a faculty's lab. And so, you might be that lone student, and your experience is just going to be much different if you're connecting with the other undergraduates and if you're working with your graduate leader. Okay, that's all that I had. Like I said, any questions that come up, please drop us an email at nasa@uw. I'll put that into the chat too for the folks who are online. Harry, I had one question from the chat specifically for you that we'll chat afterwards.
All right.
So here's how to contact us via email for the folks in Zoom and the direct link to our website. And like I said, the application will be online later this afternoon. You'll see it on the main page of the website. So that's all that we have. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.